Every morning, with sleepy eyes and worn-out shoes, they chase it. In traffic, in office halls, in arguments, in desperation. They chase money like a dog chases a car, fast, loud, mindless. But they never stop to ask, what am I becoming? Poor people chase money. Rich people, they chase alignment, identity, not the cash itself, but the version of themselves that naturally commands wealth. Not through luck, not through gimmicks, but through internal transformation. You were not born to be a beggar for bills. You were not meant to scroll through life with an empty soul and a full cart. This world didn't breathe you into existence for you to chase scraps with a genius mind imprisoned by broken programming. Let me ask you something. When did you first believe that money was scarce, that the only way to get it was to trade your time, your spirit, and your sanity? Who taught you that story? Because that story is killing you slowly, and it's not even yours. Understand this. The real game is not played outside. The real game is played in your belief system, in your self-image, in the hidden programming that decides whether you wake up thinking, I need to survive, or I was born to build empires. Poor people are stuck in survival mode. It's not because they're lazy, it's because they're trained to react, not create. They wake up and react to the bills, react to the boss, react to the news, react to everything but their own vision. Meanwhile, the rich, the truly rich in spirit and finance, they rewire their identity. They see themselves differently. They think in terms of abundance, leverage, assets, purpose, and legacy. They don't just want money. They want alignment with a higher version of themselves. And that version just happens to attract wealth like a magnet. The truth is brutal. If you gave most poor people $1 million today, they'd lose it in a year, because their identity isn't designed to hold wealth. They'd sabotage it, spend it, or shrink from it, because money amplifies who you are. And if your identity is rooted in lack, in fear, in desperation, that money becomes a ticking time bomb. But here's the good news. You can rebuild yourself from the inside out. You can choose to stop chasing and start transforming. Because the rich don't run after money. They rise to the frequency where money runs after them. Let me show you how. It begins with clarity, not on what you want, but who you're becoming. You're not just changing your habits, you're changing your identity. An identity isn't built by wishing, it's built by consistent alignment with a higher vision. Look at Carnegie. He didn't start with riches. He started with a hunger to be more than the steelworker's son. Henry Ford wasn't chasing money. He was chasing a vision so deep in his soul that the money had no choice but to follow. Disney, poor and rejected, still saw the castle before it was ever drawn. They all knew. If I become the right man, the money, the power, the empire, it will all become inevitable. But you can't fake this. You can't journal your way into wealth if your identity screams, I'm still broke. You have to break the cycle by doing the unthinkable. Let go of who you've been. Let go of the man who chases. Let go of the woman who waits for permission. Let go of the identity built in fear, forged in debt, cemented by trauma. Because as long as you carry that identity, you will carry the results that come with it. So burn it. Burn the version of you that thinks $100 is a lot of money. Burn the version that apologizes for being ambitious. Burn the version that trades dreams for stability. That's not who you are. That's who the world made you to be. Now you rebuild. You rebuild by reprogramming, not your bank account, your belief system, not your routine, your identity. Every morning you rise, you're either repeating your past or rehearsing your future. And most people, they don't wake up, they reboot. Like machines stuck in yesterday's code, living the same day with the same thoughts, producing the same life. But you're not a machine. You're a creator. You have the divine ability to imagine something that doesn't exist, and then become the kind of person who makes it real. That's where wealth begins. Not in spreadsheets, not in budgets, but in belief. You must start seeing yourself as the architect of your life. Because every thought you entertain is a blueprint, and every action you take is a brick. What kind of mansion are you building with your thoughts right now? A palace of power or a prison of poverty? That inner dialogue, That silent voice when no one's around, that's the software of your reality. You cannot outwork a mindset that says, I'm not worthy. You cannot out-earn a belief that whispers, I'm not enough. Because even if the money shows up, your identity will find a way to push it away, to lose it, to sabotage it. So you must speak to yourself like you're sculpting a king, a queen, not like you're managing a failure. You think the wealthy got that way by chance? By accident? No, they built themselves from the inside out. They read when others watched. They invested when others consumed. They sacrificed when others indulged. They spoke life into their future until the future bowed in return. It's identity first, results second. You're not trying to get rich. You're becoming someone that wealth is attracted to. You're shifting the very gravitational pull of your life. And you do it by changing the story you tell yourself when no one's watching. I am no longer poor, not in dollars, but in identity. I am no longer available for small thinking. I do not entertain limitations that weren't born from my own soul. That's how you start. And let's be honest. The old version of you won't go quietly. It will scream, it will beg, it will sabotage, because it knows it's dying. But every time you wake up early, every time you read instead of scroll, every time you say no to temporary pleasure for long-term power, you bury that old self a little deeper. You're not just changing habits. You're performing a funeral for the version of you that settles. And yes, it will be uncomfortable. Growth always is. Ask any butterfly what it felt like inside the cocoon. Ask any phoenix what it felt like to burn before it flew. The transformation isn't pretty, but the result is divine. You want wealth? Stop asking how to get more money. Start asking, who do I need to become so that money is drawn to me like a law of nature? Because wealthy people don't need to chase. They radiate something. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. They've made peace with their power. They've made discipline their religion. They've turned self-respect into currency, and the world pays them accordingly. Do you see now? You were never meant to beg for scraps. You were meant to rise in the silence, train when no one's watching, build when no one believes in you, and walk into your own future like a man on fire. Poor people think they need more luck. Rich people know they need more identity. You think it's all about the money. But it was never about the money. It's about becoming the kind of person who can handle the responsibility, the vision, the power, and the pressure that comes with it. And that person, that version of you, they're already waiting on the other side of your current habits, on the other side of your old story, on the other side of fear. But you must step forward. You must declare war on who you used to be. And you must do it every day until that old self starves. There is no breakthrough without a breakdown. And most people never get rich, not because they lack talent or time, but because they refuse to break down the version of themselves that's addicted to comfort. You cannot take poverty with you into the promised land. You cannot carry victimhood into victory. You must shed it, ruthlessly, relentlessly. Poor people hold on to limitations like heirlooms, passed down from generation to generation. Money doesn't grow on trees. People like us don't get rich. Life's about surviving, not thriving. Lies, all of it. Lies rooted in fear, not in fact. Do you think the world owes you anything because you suffered? It doesn't. But it will give you everything if you evolve. That's the painful truth. The universe rewards identity, not intentions. It pays those who become, not just those who wish. You can have all the vision boards and mantras in the world, but if your self-image doesn't match the life you're asking for, it won't manifest. It can't. Because you're repelling the very thing you claim to desire. You don't get what you want. You get what you believe you deserve. So, the real work isn't chasing money. It's expanding your capacity to receive. It's stretching your mindset. It's standing in the mirror and saying, I am no longer the version of me who settles. I am no longer addicted to validation. I no longer shrink to fit into someone else's small world. Because you don't belong in small rooms. You belong in boardrooms, studios, kingdoms, wherever the real game is played. But to get there, you must outgrow your old self before the world notices. You must walk like a millionaire before the money ever hits your account. You must think like a king before anyone bows. Look at the giants of history. Edison failed 1,000 times and still believed the light would come. Lincoln lost more elections than most people attempt and still carved his name into the granite of time. Oprah was told she didn't belong on TV. Disney was told he lacked imagination. They were all broke once, but never in identity. And that's the secret. Wealth is not a destination. It's a byproduct of alignment, of living so consistently in your truth that the universe cannot ignore you. When you operate from power, from vision, from identity, money is no longer something you chase. It becomes a side effect, an echo of your evolution. But let me be clear. This isn't about pretending. This isn't fake it till you make it. This is embody it until you attract it. Speak like the person you want to be. Think like the person you want to be. Move like the person you want to be. And do it when no one's clapping. Because that's where the winners are made. In silence, in discipline, in private choices that will one day build a public legacy. And when the temptations come, and they will, to scroll instead of study, to rest instead of rise, to spend instead of invest. Remember, poor people follow feelings. Rich people follow decisions. Your bank account is a mirror. It reflects your decisions, your time, your identity. So change the reflection. Change what you tolerate. Change what you expect. Change how you respond to resistance, rejection, and delay. Because the wealthiest people alive, the true builders, not the influencers, they all have this one thing in common. They became someone different before the world rewarded them for it. So the question isn't how much money you want. The question is, who do you need to become for that kind of money to feel normal? Not exciting, not lucky, normal. That's the moment you know you've rewired your identity. When wealth is no longer a miracle, it's a reflection, and if you're not there yet, don't worry, it's not too late. But it is urgent. You don't have time to waste another year chasing money. You don't have time to repeat cycles that keep you small. You don't have time to wait for approval, applause, or the perfect moment. The time is now. Not to chase, but to become. You must become the person that success has no choice but to find. Not once, not for a season, but every single day until it's not a practice. It's your default setting. You're not building habits. You're building a legacy system inside yourself, a way of operating, a new standard. And here's the truth. The world doesn't give you what you demand. It gives you what you consistently tolerate. What have you been tolerating? Mediocre mornings? Dreams talked about but never acted on? A bank account that reflects fear more than faith? People who drain your energy because you're too scared to be alone? Comfort that feels safe but is silently stealing your future? Enough. You are not broke. You are buried, and it's time to dig. It's time to excavate the part of you that stopped believing, that got tired, that was trained to expect less. You must unlearn before you become. Unlearn the scarcity. Unlearn the guilt around wealth. Unlearn the idea that wanting more is selfish. It's not. It's responsible. Because when you become wealthy in spirit, in identity, in finances, you don't just change your life. You become the one who changes generations. You think this is about money? It's not. It's about who your grandchildren will be because you refuse to die average. They'll read about you. They'll live in homes you built. They'll walk through doors you kicked open, and they'll say, it started with them. They were the first who said no more. No more chasing, no more survival, no more playing small just to fit in. That is your legacy. But legacy isn't built in speeches. It's built in decisions. The decision to wake up at 5 a.m. instead of sleeping in. The decision to read instead of scroll. The decision to invest when everyone else is afraid. The decision to keep building even when nobody believes. The decision to show up for yourself because no one else will. You must stop outsourcing your power to your past. You must stop letting your environment dictate your identity. And you must stop negotiating with fear. Fear doesn't leave. You just stop letting it speak. Because fear will scream, but discipline will whisper. And the wealthy? They learn to listen to the whispers. They don't need loud motivation. They don't need hype. They don't need permission. They operate on conviction, a quiet, unshakable knowing that they were built for more. Even when the bank says no, even when the market crashes, even when the world is laughing. That's the power of identity. It doesn't rise and fall with circumstances. It's forged in the fire of decisions made when no one's looking. You don't become wealthy by chasing outcomes. You become wealthy by becoming the kind of person who creates outcomes. And it's not about being the loudest in the room, it's about being the most disciplined when no one is watching. Listen, you won't always feel like it. You won't always see results immediately, but every action you take is casting a vote for the future version of yourself. Who are you voting for today? The tired version that repeats the cycle, or the unstoppable force that breaks it? Because whether you realize it or not, your habits are already casting ballots. Your language is shaping the walls of your future. Your friends, your thoughts, your choices, they're writing the story your grandchildren will read. Write it well, write it boldly, write it with fire. Burn your limitations, forgive your past, elevate your circle. Raise your standards until people think you're insane. Because they should. The ones who change the world always look crazy to the ones who've accepted smallness. But history was never written by the comfortable. It was written by those who believed in their future identity more than their current circumstances. So I'll say it again. Poor people chase money. Rich people become someone that money can't ignore. And becoming, that's a full-time job, a daily decision, a sacred responsibility. And today, you clock in. You clock in without applause. You clock in without results. You clock in when it's raining, when you're tired, when no one believes in you. Because identity isn't a hobby. It's who you are when nothing is working. Yet. The world has tricked you into thinking results come first, that success is proof of identity. But the truth is this: identity creates success, not the other way around. Your results are just a receipt, a delayed confirmation of who you've decided to become over time. If you want different outcomes, you don't need a new strategy. You need a new self-concept. You need to look in the mirror and say, this is not who I stay. This is who I'm leaving behind. And then do the unglamorous, uncomfortable work of living into your future identity. Before anyone claps. Before anything changes. That's the divide between poor and rich. Poor people change when things change. Rich people change so things change. They don't wait for circumstances to improve. They become the force that improves them. And that's why the universe opens doors for them, because it recognizes them. Not by status, not by wealth, but by the energy of someone who already knows who they are. You must live like your future is already happening, because it is. Right now, with every decision you make, your future self is being shaped. Every moment of silence, of sacrifice, of self-mastery. It's laying brick by brick the empire you'll one day walk through. But here's the catch. You'll never rise higher than your self-image. You can make money. You can get followers. You can even buy the car. But if your identity is still rooted in scarcity, you'll find a way to destroy it all. Because the mind always seeks to validate who it believes you are. So tell it something different. Tell it you're not broke, you're building. Tell it you're not late, you're right on time for your assignment. Tell it you're not weak, you're becoming unshakable. Your internal script must change before your external reality ever will. And you change that script through repetition, through action, through relentless discipline that makes your old self irrelevant. This is the discipline of the rich. They don't just manage money, they manage identity. They guard their mind like a fortress. They treat self-respect as a currency. They spend their time like investors, not consumers. Because they know the truth. Every choice either compounds or cancels your wealth. There is no neutral. You're either building your future or betraying it. And you won't always feel powerful. You won't always feel inspired. But feelings are not your leader. Vision is. Discipline is. Identity is. Remember, the oak tree doesn't look like a seed, but the seed always knew. That's you. They won't recognize you right now. But that doesn't mean you're not becoming something unstoppable. It means you're still in the dark, still growing underground, still learning, healing, shedding, becoming. And if you can stay committed in the dark, the light will never be able to ignore you. That's what the rich understand. Wealth isn't a trophy. It's a mirror. It reflects who you've trained yourself to be. It reflects your courage, your commitment, your character. So stop asking the world to pay you more. Start becoming more. Because the world pays you in direct proportion to the value you bring. And value is born from depth, not noise. The ones who get paid the most don't chase trends. They build foundations. They train while others tweet. They read while others binge. They create when others complain. And most importantly, they never let their current reality tell them who they are. You must look at your present life with disrespect, not because you're ungrateful, but because you know it's beneath the version of you that's coming. This is not your final form. This is not your full potential. This is your cocoon. And cocoons are always uncomfortable, so grow. Evolve, resist the urge to shrink. But there's something even deeper than mindset, deeper than habits. It's your identity. Because no matter how many books you read, affirmations you chant, or hours you grind, if your subconscious identity screams, "I'm not good enough," then your bank account will obey it. Your life will kneel before it. You'll sabotage opportunity before it can take root, because poverty isn't always financial. It's spiritual. It's inherited. It's baked into how you see yourself. That's why poor people chase money. They think money is the fix. But money is only a mirror. It reflects what you already believe to be true about yourself. That's why lottery winners go broke. That's why athletes who earn millions end up bankrupt. Because their internal thermostat, set by years of doubt, fear, insecurity, pulls them back to where they believe they belong. Rich people don't chase money. They shape identity. They don't wake up hoping to get something from the world. They wake up already certain they are something. And because they are something, the world bends around that identity. They don't become rich to feel worthy. They know they are worthy, so they become rich. This is where the game changes, not with tactics, but with transformation. You have to unlearn the lies of your upbringing. You have to burn the blueprint handed to you by broke parents, broken schools, and blind systems. You were raised to survive, not to build. You were taught to obey, not to think. And if you want wealth, if you want freedom, then you must become a radical. You must rebel against every identity that keeps you comfortable in chains. And it starts with one sentence burned into your soul: I was not born to be average. Because you weren't. You were born into a world shaped by people no smarter than you. Edison had no formal education. Lincoln was self-taught. Oprah came from nothing. Elon was bullied. Jobs was adopted. These weren't men and women of perfection. They were people who dared to question the identity forced upon them. The world said, be realistic. They said, I'll be revolutionary. The world said, play it safe. They said, safety is an illusion. The world said, know your place. They said, I'll build my own. And that's the difference. That's the line in the sand. Not money, not privilege, not even talent, identity. Because when you see yourself as powerful, the world treats you like it. And when you see yourself as poor, every door slams in your face, even if you've got the key. So what do? You rewire your inner code. You wake up and look in the mirror, not to see your flaws, but to meet your future. You write a new script on your soul, one etched with conviction, not convenience. And every day, every hour, you act in alignment with the person you are becoming. Not the person you used to be, not the broke kid, not the failure, not the almost, not the dreamer who never started. You act like the person you must become to unlock the life you were born for. And you repeat that until it sticks, until your body believes it, until your actions prove it, until your results reflect it. Because results always follow identity, never the other way around. That's why when the poor lose money, they panic. But when the rich lose money, they build again, because their wealth isn't in the bank. It's in their mind. It's in the furnace of belief that never goes out, even when the world tries to blow it cold. You want to be wealthy? Don't chase income. Rewire your internal worth. You want freedom? Don't just fight the system, elevate beyond it. Don't just level up your bank, level up your being. Don't just attract wealth, become a magnet of mastery. Because the man who knows who he is never begs. He doesn't plead. He doesn't hustle for scraps. He walks into rooms with gravity. He speaks with vision. And the world listens, not because he demanded it, but because his very presence commands it. That's what this is about. Not getting rich. Becoming rich. Because there's a difference. Getting rich is an accident. Becoming rich is a decision. And decisions, unlike luck, are repeatable. They're teachable. They're powerful. So stop chasing. Start becoming. Because when you become, the chase ends. The world comes to you. They don't wait for opportunities. They become the opportunity. They don't sit around hoping someone will recognize their worth. They embody their worth before anyone else dares to notice. They don't chase money like a hungry dog chasing a moving car. They magnetize wealth by becoming someone worthy of handling abundance. Because the truth is, the outer world is always reflecting the inner world. When you raise your standards, not just in what you want, but in who you're becoming, everything around you begins to shift. People treat you differently. Opportunities knock louder. Doors open with less effort. Because the world recognizes what you now believe about yourself. This is what poor mindsets never grasp. They think riches start with luck, with timing, with finding the right strategy. But riches always start with identity. Who are you when no one's watching? Who are you when things fall apart? Because that version of you, the one who shows up in chaos, who thinks in silence, who decides in darkness, is the version that determines your entire destiny. The rich don't ask, how do I make more money? They ask, who must I become to attract wealth effortlessly? And that question changes everything, because it forces you to let go of the version of yourself that's attached to scarcity. You must bury the identity that was built on survival, so you can birth the identity built for legacy. And yes, it's painful. It's not easy to break free from the mindset your parents passed down or the beliefs your environment cemented in your subconscious. But ease was never the goal. Greatness was. And greatness demands a death of the victim, the doubter, the blamer, the complainer. You can't create wealth while worshipping struggle. You can't become free while believing the world owes you something. You must rewrite the program. The one that says you're not enough. The one that whispers, play it safe, stay small, be realistic. You must take that voice and bury it beneath the voice of vision, of courage, of destiny. You must sit down not with your bank account but with your soul and ask, what kind of person creates generational wealth in this lifetime? And then you must become that person before the world gives you permission. Because that's how it works. The rich aren't rich because of money. They're rich because of alignment, because their identity is calibrated to abundance, because they stopped chasing and started embodying. They walk into rooms like they already belong. They speak ideas like they already own the company. They treat their time like it's more valuable than gold, because it is. And that energy of certainty, of value, of vision, creates momentum that no economy can stop. But you can't do that while clinging to your old self. You can't become a millionaire with the mindset of a man afraid to charge for his time. You can't attract success with the identity of someone who still waits for permission to dream. You can't build empires with the habits of a servant begging for crumbs. So ask yourself, what are you loyal to? Because if you're loyal to fear, you'll betray your destiny. If you're loyal to the past, you'll never see the future. If you're loyal to comfort, you'll never create wealth. The only way out is up. And up doesn't come from effort alone. It comes from elevation of identity. You see, the ones who rise, truly rise, are not the ones who wait for their environment to change, but the ones who become the catalyst for change itself. They are not asking for circumstances to improve. They become the improved circumstance. They don't adjust themselves to poverty and blame fate. They transform fate by becoming someone new. The rich, in identity, not just currency, do not see money as the finish line. They see it as a mirror, a reflection of their current standard. And if that mirror reveals something low, they don't smash it or curse it. They elevate what it reflects. They raise their standard of thought, their habits, their language, their decisions, their associations, everything. Because money at its core is not the cause, it's the consequence. It's the receipt printed by the universe for the value you became, not the value you demanded. Poor minds chase riches like beggars outside a castle, hoping for scraps. But powerful minds, wealth minds, realize the castle was always within them. And they don't knock on doors anymore. They build their own gates. They become the gatekeepers. That's the shift. That's the difference. It's not just about making more, it's about becoming more. But here's the hard truth. You can't become more if you're still tied to the version of yourself that was built in survival, the identity shaped by struggle, the habits trained by lack, the voice inside you that still whispers, maybe you're not enough. Burn that version. Because no matter how many courses you buy or goals you write down, if your identity doesn't evolve, your results won't either. You'll sabotage every breakthrough. You'll deflate every win, because your subconscious mind is loyal, not to your dreams, but to your self-image. And if your self-image is rooted in scarcity, you'll unconsciously protect it, even if it ruins you. But when you rewire your identity, when you stop saying, I want to be wealthy, and start saying, I am the kind of person who attracts wealth, everything changes. Your posture changes. Your language sharpens. Your circle shifts. You become allergic to mediocrity. You stop negotiating with your own potential. You stop arguing for your limitations. You stop playing small to keep others comfortable. You become dangerous, not in a violent sense, but in the way a focused beam of light can cut through steel. Because a person with identity clarity is unstoppable. They don't ask, can I? They ask, who must I become to never ask that question again? Rich people don't climb ladders, they burn them and build elevators. Why? Because they know the ladders were made to be climbed by permission. But elevators are built by visionaries who stopped waiting for permission. Now let's talk about discipline, not the grit your teeth, hustle till you collapse kind, but the discipline of identity alignment. When your identity is upgraded, discipline stops feeling like punishment and starts feeling like protection. You don't work out because you hate your body. You do it because it protects your future self. You don't study success to prove anything. You do it because that's what the next level you does. Discipline is no longer suffering. It becomes self-respect. And that's the invisible code wealthy people live by. Respect for self. Not in ego, but in essence. They don't need applause. They don't need validation. They validate themselves every time they keep a promise they made when nobody was watching. Poor people want approval before action. Rich people know action is what earns self-respect, and self-respect is the only approval that truly matters. So what's stopping you? A bank balance? A toxic relationship? A job title? No, it's none of those. It's the invisible ceiling inside you, built by stories you didn't choose, beliefs you inherited, fears you absorbed. And now you're going to tear that ceiling down, beam by beam. You're not poor because you lack money. You're poor because the version of you who was born to lead is buried under layers of guilt, fear, doubt, and borrowed identities. But no more. The richest man in history is not the one with the most coins. It's the one who wakes up every morning and says, I will not live one more day pretending to be someone I'm not. You were born powerful, not perfect, not wealthy, but powerful. And that power can either be buried under self-pity or used to forge an unshakable identity that no storm can destroy. Your move. But what does rewiring your identity truly look like? It begins when you stop asking, what can I get, and start asking, who must I become? Because the man who chases money is forever enslaved by it. But the man who attracts wealth, who embodies abundance, becomes the source of it. And that transformation is not external, it's internal. You don't make $1 million by chasing $1 million. You make $1 million by becoming a person worth $1 million. Worth in mindset, worth in energy, worth in vision, worth in value. It's no coincidence that every lasting fortune is rooted in service. Carnegie didn't build steel empires by hoarding, he built them by producing. Ford didn't become an icon by chasing coins, he became one by daring to rethink transportation for the common man. And yet today, millions wake up and ask, how can I get rich quick? Wrong question. Ask instead, how can I serve powerfully, authentically, consistently, until the world can't ignore me? Your value is the soil in which your wealth grows. But value isn't just skills. It's not just knowledge. It's identity. You can't plant seeds of greatness in the soil of insecurity and expect a forest of abundance. You have to become the man who believes, truly believes, he is worthy of wealth. And not just worthy, but inevitable. When wealth becomes a byproduct of your standards, your mindset, and your discipline, then and only then does it flow to you. But be warned, identity does not shift passively. You cannot think your way into a new life. You must act every day in defiance of your current limits. Do the things your old self would have quit. Speak the words your old self was afraid to say. Walk into rooms your old self thought he didn't belong in. Because repetition builds familiarity, and familiarity becomes identity. It's not easy, it's not quick, but it's inevitable if you decide to rise. The poor cling to comfort, but the wealthy are forged in discomfort. They don't avoid pressure, they seek it. They place themselves in the fires of uncertainty, knowing that's where diamonds are born. And if you want to rewire your identity, you must burn the blueprint of who you've been and build anew, not once, not twice, daily. A man becomes his rituals, and if your rituals say, I'm broke, tired, and reactive, then your life will echo it. But if your rituals scream, I'm building, I'm becoming, I'm destined, then nothing can stop you. The identity of wealth is not loud, it's not flashy, it's quiet, composed, it knows. It walks into every room not seeking validation, but radiating certainty. Because true wealth is internal first. It's the inner calm that knows no matter what happens in the bank account, the mind remains abundant, the spirit remains focused, the vision remains unshaken. And once you hold that kind of power, money becomes the echo of your self-worth. It chases you. And here's what most never realize until it's too late. True wealth. It was never about stacking cash. It was never about what you have. It was always about who you became in the process. The mansion, the freedom, the respect. They were just reflections of the internal empire. Of the man or woman who faced the mirror one day and said, I will not live on autopilot anymore. I will not obey the script. I will rewrite it. Word by word, brick by brick, breath by breath. See, the greatest riches don't sit in your bank account. They live in your character, discipline, integrity, vision, tenacity, imagination. These are the currencies of kings. These are the stocks that never crash. And if you build them, I don't care if you were born in a shack with empty pockets and a broken heart. You can still rise. You can still reign. Because the marketplace bows to identity. Because the world doesn't give wealth to those who chase it. It hands it over to those who command it by who they are. So if you're still chasing money, stop. Turn inward. Ask deeper questions. Who am I becoming? What beliefs do I carry about worth, power, and abundance? Am I aligning my habits with my higher self, or just surviving another day? Because the truth? Money is a mirror. It reflects your standards, your energy, your self-worth. And until you evolve you, no amount of hustling will ever feel enough. But when you rise in consciousness, when you rewire your mind, money no longer becomes something you chase. It becomes a side effect of the empire you're being. You were not put on this earth to pay bills and die. You were born with divine fingerprints, a one-of-one masterpiece with fire in your lungs. Your destiny was never mediocrity. It was magnificence. It was legacy. It was walking into a room and the atmosphere changing. Not because of your watch, but because of your aura. So if you're tired, good. If you're fed up, perfect. Because that means you're ready. Ready to destroy the old identity, the one built on fear, survival, smallness, and birth the real you, the creator, the builder, the king, the queen, the architect of abundance. This is your time. This is your moment. No more excuses. No more waiting for permission. No more blaming the system, the parents, the past. It all starts with one decision: to stop chasing wealth and start becoming it. Because when you become wealth, it chases you.